Everyone, this is Nikachu. Good morning. Good morning to all the fish fam, the ghost gangs, the cryptic clubs, the fire fanatics. I don't know, I should probably figure out a very long list of all the archetypes and different communities inside the magic world. We are here for this morning to enjoy a cup of coffee and talk some MTG. That's right. We're going to talk Magic the Gathering. If you're here, let me know. Where are you? Is it the morning for you? I don't know, it's not the morning for everyone, but it's definitely the morning for me. So it's a good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all parts of the world. So yeah, while we're quarantined, let's hang out, let's chat, let's have some fun, let's answer some questions because we have nowhere else to go. So why don't we make the best of it while we're still at home? So got a lot of interesting news to talk about. We got, for example, two big things. We successfully recorded a league between my brother and I, so we're going to be rolling out the league videos starting today. The league videos are going to come out starting today. Second thing, I have ordered all the parts to my new computer, so that is already on the way, in movement. And there was a little bit of a crisis going on when it came to the computer because all the motherboards were sold out. For some reason, during this crisis, everyone has decided to become a streamer and order all the good computer parts off the face of the internet. And I was just lucky to find some Canadian supplier that I'm guessing doesn't ship outside of Canada that could still hold on to their inventory. So I got lucky there. I'm very happy about that. All right, so let me get myself a little bit more set up here. Let's look at what's going on in the chat room. Oh, Kyoka, good morning. Good morning, Chris. Thomas. Chris has got the coffee and the coffee donuts. All right, 10 a.m. Hey, everyone's at Central Standard Time. I love it. Everyone loves coffee, says Tragic. I got my coffee. I'm not gonna spill it this time. I'm not gonna spill it. I'm gonna pay attention. Oh, this is stupid. Why am I doing it like this when I can just show you? This is how far I've gone. And I guarantee you when we're done today, it's still going to be pretty full. I'm absolutely a sipper of my coffee. I like to enjoy it over a very long period of time. If it goes cold, it's all good. It's all good with me. I don't mind. Let's go on with the Magic World. Magic World's still trucking along. Apparently Standard people are getting upset with Agent of Treachery in Standard because not only... I don't know if anyone's very familiar with Standard. I'm not super familiar with Standard, but I just know that everyone's getting really upset with Agent of Treachery, entering the battlefield, stealing your stuff. And, because of Yorion, you can blink Agent of Treachery, and you just keep stealing more stuff. So you got this blinking effect. I mean, it's a huge tempo swing. You put a creature on the battlefield, and you steal a permanent from your opponent. That's ridiculous. So, and what's interesting is people are saying maybe this wasn't a problem during R&D's design because Veil of Summer was probably part of their equation, but they banned Veil of Summer, so now Agent of Treachery is free to take whatever they want. So I just thought that was an interesting point of Standard. People are upset over all the formats, more than just Modern, Legacy, and Vintage, and Pioneer. Kyoka says there's just no aggro decks that can go under these greed decks at the moment. I don't know if that's entirely true. I mean, I think Mono Red Prowess and if you would consider Burn an aggro deck, I think Burn is still doing very well. I still don't understand why people don't want to take Burn seriously. It's still performing incredibly strong. I don't know. Maybe there are a lot of people and it's being held in check, but I still see it. The thing is, hitting out Burn is doable, but Burn still keeps putting up 5-0s and goes deep in the open events, so I think there are some options to eating up your opponent with some creature aggro decks. Well, then maybe the sack versions, but I'm not so sure about the red stuff. I'm not sure about the red stuff, Kyoka. Day 4, sup monster, sup, welcome Lantern, absolute staple to this channel. Legend, welcome. Good morning Mikey, good morning FNG MTG. Oh, Kyoket's talking about there's no aggro decks in standard. Gotcha, I understand. Okay, yeah. If there may not be any aggro decks possible in standard, and like the really good, all the control cards are really really good. That's a really good point. So standard might be like shot for red stuff, like the good stuff, and maybe enough stuff for the red deck has cycled out now. It doesn't have the power that it once did. Legend says went 7-2 at the last Super Qualifier with Ad Nauseam. Yeah, Ad Nauseam is really strong. Not like I said, if you want to beat the Lurrus decks right now, you can do it with complete raw power. And another angle that Ad Nauseam has over old like it has a really good burn matchup. A really good burn matchup. I mean, Angel's Grace. I mean, once you put Phyrexian on life on the battlefield, you're making the burn deck really sick. I mean, it's bad enough that they have to try to beat some, like a Merfolk player that doesn't take damage from their lands. They have to take down their life total from 20 life. And then this Ad Nauseam deck, which takes no damage from their lands, nothing. They just play those temples and gemstone mines and stuff like that. Then they slam Phyrexian on life. That's like the worst nightmare. Day 2 Dryden can attest to this. It's just an absolute nightmare to play against Ad Nauseam from a burn deck's perspective. So it looks like Ad Nauseam has a really good edge and an angle in today's modern metagame. So I don't doubt that Ad Nauseam is very well positioned. I believe it won a modern challenge somewhere in the last 2 weeks. So it's definitely a very good archetype. Which is interesting because, you know, it's once humans came into the foray, it like Ad Nauseam saw like no play. It was basically like hated out of the format for one deck. And I guess maybe humans has shrunk enough that and there are enough good matchups for Ad Nauseam now that it can come back in good shape. Hey, so what's like the what's the matchup like for Ad Nauseam versus Neoform? Like, I'm sure Neoform packs a bunch of Force of Negations, but is it enough? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm curious about that matchup all of a sudden. Because, you know, you could like Angel's Grace after they play like Thassa's Oracle, but I mean, they've drawn their entire deck, you know, so they probably have some sort of backup counterspell. Mikey says Burn is a noob deck, only in the hands of well, there's a bit of truth to that in that, you know, Burn is like one of the sort of an entry point deck historically. Historically, Burn was a pretty cheap deck to get into, so it was just something everyone wanted to buy into to get on Magic the Gathering Online. Now I think Burn is pricey. Like if you buy into Burn, you're doing it because like you really actually want to play Burn, not because it's like a budget deck. Welcome, Cody. Welcome, Cody Hope. Good morning. Okay, Daniel's got some. Oh, we got hold on. I just want to thank you, Komori, for being a patron on Patreon. I actually have a lot of new patrons that I'm going to thank in today's new video that's going to come out a few hours after the hangout is done. So, hello, Victor from Sweden. Oh, your first modern deck was Merfolk. Well, congratulations. That is an excellent first modern deck, and I genuinely still believe that Merfolk is one of the best decks to learn, even if it's not the final deck that you arrive to. It teaches you aggro, it teaches you tempo, it teaches you control, it teaches you mid-game, mid-range. Like all different styles you have to incorporate against all archetypes. You need to change your role within many archetypes within Merfolk. So with Merfolk, you learn like basically all the archetypes of Magic at once, and then from there you can maybe find out what style you actually like the most, and you know, move on to another archetype if necessary. Or you just stick to Merfolk like me and become a Merfolk master. So got some questions, says Daniel. Have you ever been contacted by Wizards for R&D ideas or other reasons? So that first question, absolutely not. R&D has never contacted me for anything. And number two, who/what MTG content do you consume, particularly YouTubers? So truth be told, I don't watch a whole lot of content, but if there is anything, I do watch Rudy from Alpha Investments. I don't mind he has a very fresh, unique perspective on Magic, even though it's not Magic related, but it's like in a domain that I like don't know that much about at all. Also, I am now very regularly watching Tolarian Community College's, what's it called? His basically his like live podcasts where he brings people on and interviews them. So I like hearing insights from whoever he has to interview, whether it's someone from R&D or someone from a YouTube channel. I do. It's like a really good way. Not only is it really informative, but like it's a good way. It's a good way of getting up to speed in other domains of Magic that I'm not really fluent with. So I would say those are the two that I watch the most, but I definitely float around and look at a lot of other YouTube channels, a little bit this here, this and there. But if I were to talk about what I watch on a regular basis, it would be those two. Let's see. Komori says, Standard is quite destroyed since a while, isn't it? Well, I mean, the thing about Standard has always had a problem of being balanced, fun. You know, it's I guess even for R&D, it's very difficult. It like just waxes and wanes in popularity. Sometimes it's real. You know, like if you look at the Felidar Guardian Saheeli Rai combo that existed in Standard, it was like a two deck format between Felidar Guardian and I think Mardu Vehicles, and that was it. So that format sucked. It was almost dead. And then all of a sudden they banned the Felidar Guardian, and then overnight, the format exploded with like 30 different archetypes. Basically, overnight, it just boomed. So I think that just proves, like I was playing a little bit of Standard at that time because I had to prepare for the Pro Tour, and there was like zombies, and there was like this blue-green ramp deck, and there was still vehicles. There was this blue-white blinking deck. I can't remember everything, but it was a very big, diverse format at that time, and all because they just banned a card. They just banned the problematic card. So you know there is like hidden interest. If you can make a format that lets people play all the types of decks that they want to play, then you have a fantastic Standard format. Difficult to do, but it's possible. Endgame says, Nikachu, what's up? I'm doing good. I'm just starting off my day, starting it all off with you. I've had my breakfast, drinking my coffee. This might be somewhere where I usually start consuming some YouTube content, but you know, I can do that later. I can do that at any time of the day. Let me spend it with all of you. Little Bird 965, is there a card you would really like to play, but that is just 1 mana too expensive? Oh, 1 mana? There's like a lot of cards I want to play, but they're just not well positioned. But I never looked at cards that are 1 mana too expensive. I want to sort of name Master of Waves. Master of Waves would be fantastic at 3 mana. So there's such situations where Master of Waves is too expensive, although it's always still pretty good. I mean, it's a very powerful card. What is 1 mana too expensive? Well, I can't say anything too. Yeah, any of the 3 mana counter spells, as Monster says. I mean, I could go over some cards that I want to play, but they're just not well positioned enough. Things like Void Mage Prodigy. I think that card is awesome. That thing is incredible. It's 2 mana for a 2. It's a blue for a 2/1 creature, and you can pay 2 mana, sacrifice a wizard, and counter target spell. That thing is nuts. But it's the problem is you need to be in a metagame where counter spells are actually good, and we're not exactly in that metagame. Like for example, Humans dodges it with Cavernous Souls and Aether Vial, and same thing with. Basically Eldrazi-tron. They get out really fast, and it's hard to hold up mana, and they've got Cavern of Souls, and they have Thought-Knot Seer, not to mention. They can just kill all our stuff. Hold on, what's that blue-green merfolk? When a land enters the battlefield, you gain a life and draw a card. Maybe that's like a pretty good one. I don't know for sure if I would play that, because that's sort of like a turn 5 card, because you want to make sure that you play this, like I think it's Tsuva. I can't remember the name, but there's like a Simic Merfolk where it's 5 mana. Oh, Tatiova, that's what it is. Tatiova. So Tatiova, that card is ridiculous. That thing is really strong because you get so much, you gain life and you draw cards for your land drops. What is that? That's nuts. But it's 5 mana, so it's basically unplayable for any constructed format. But Like I would consider that for historic, but it's just 5 mana. It's just stupid. But maybe if it was 4 mana, maybe if it was 4 mana, it's like a really powerful effect. So that's why they put it like so high. But that would be something I could consider. Yeah, Merfolk would cry for 4 mana consistency, says Bother Sean. So let's look here. Still playing Elves in Standard with a bunch of Vivians and Nisas and having fun getting some wins against top tier decks. That's great, Thomas. Thomas Perry in there representing the Elves, the Elf army. So Brian Gnomes agrees that Neoform is faster than Ad Nauseam. I mean, I would assume so. I was just wondering if like Ad Nauseam had a bit of an angle to stop the opponent, like I don't know, in response to casting, I don't know, Eldritch Evolution, you play Silence or something like that. I don't know. Endgame asks, have you ever played other iterations of MTG games, like Duel of the Planeswalkers or MTG Duels? Like, yes. I don't remember when or how. I did play something once, and I don't remember why I had it or how I was even playing it. But basically, it was like too crude of a version of MTG for me, and I was like, well, I basically played like a smidge of it, and I was done. I will say what I did. I mean, I know they've got that old version of MTG. Well, how can I put it? I played the Pokemon trading card game for like the Game Boy. I played the hell out of that thing, and that was a lot of fun. So I wouldn't mind if it was in that sort of style, that RPG style. And I know Magic has gone down that direction, and they should go back. They should go back. Like the Pokemon. I don't know what the Pokemon trading card game for the Game Boy. I don't know how successful it was, but like for me personally, it was a blast. It was incredibly good and fun. So like maybe Magic should like dive a little bit more in that direction, that trading card game RPG sort of style. Hello, Matt Gibson. I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Look at this cutie live and in color. Absolutely, Bother Sean. Absolutely. Oh, Nick says, Nikachu, what playmat do you use? I could bring it in a second. Now, and I have a bit of story with this playmat. It's my playmat. Don't go anywhere. I'm gonna be back in like 15 seconds. All right, here I go. Don't go anywhere. Maybe less than 15 seconds. All right, the viewership didn't tank. I think I was fast enough. Okay, so this is my custom-made playmat, the Nikachu bunny with the waves. I think this is awesome. You can get it from, what's it called? Shoot, what are they called? That they make custom make Ink Gaming. That's what it is. Ink Gaming. I have this on Ink Gaming. So I don't know, if you search up Nikachu MTG, you can find my awesome playmat. I had now I made the bunny. The bunny is all me, but the waves I had commissioned because I can't do that. And the artist, she did a fantastic job. She did a wonderful job. What was her name? Tamara Abbas did an amazing job on the waves. It looks beautiful. I'm very happy with how it turned out. So it's like it's a parody on Master of Waves, basically. So and I'm gonna start using this mat a little bit more frequently when I go play in live events. I mean, there's like tons of cool stories with this playmat. So I get the playmat and I play in my very first like tournament, like GP, Grand Prix. And in my like first 2 rounds, people look at the playmat and they're like, hey, you're Nikachu. And then I'm like, is this a good thing or a bad thing? So after like 2 rounds, or maybe it was 3, after 3 rounds of like people just immediately recognizing who I am through the playmat, I decided to put the playmat away, and then basically for the rest of the tournament, I wouldn't say the rest of the tournament, because I was still famous enough at the time that people could recognize me by my voice or by my face, or maybe by my name, that they knew what they were up against. But for the most part, like people, they were going in blind. I didn't want let them know immediately before they've drawn their hand that they're up against Merfolk. But now, that was then that I put the playmat away, but now I think I'm gonna just bring it back, because the last GP I was in, like, I don't know, 60% of my opponents knew who I was. They just sat down. They heard me. They knew exactly who they were up against. It didn't matter. So at this point, I'm just the Merfolk guy. And anyway, online, everyone knows I'm the Merfolk guy. So if 100%, like basically a very large chunk of my opponents are going to know who I am anyway. So I'm just going to play with the playmat. And I had such a cute moment, actually. So I was in this side event, and I was using the playmat in the side event because I don't care. You know, the side event is just a side event. It's not that important to me. But there was this little girl. She must have been like 10 years old. It was just adorable. And then she saw me playing with the playmat, and she's like, "Are you the guy with the YouTube channel that's for that playmat?" And she was trying really as hard as she could to ask, you know, if I'm Nikachu without revealing that I was playing Merfolk. And I said, yes, I am that guy, because I was still sleeving up to play even my first game. And she said, yeah, I watched your channel because I wanted to find out if I was going to play Spirits or Merfolk. In the end, she chose Spirits. So I guess I didn't convince her. That's too bad. So, okay, moving on. We got a lot of questions. But that was, so I already have a lot of good memories with this playmat already. Do you have a, Monster asked, do I have a current historic list? Yes, I do. You can find it on, but it's only best of one, Monster. You can go find it on my Facebook fan page. It should be pinned at the top, although I didn't add Umori. So it's that list plus Umori as a companion, because it's free. Yeah, like all the cards are creatures in the main deck, so you can just freely jam Umori. I love the list. I can't wait to play more historic and go right to the top of Mythic with it. I find it's really strong, and I mean, worst case scenario, I have like a 50-50 or 45-55 matchup against red-green monsters, but I feel very favored against everything else. I got good plans even against matchups like red deck wins and Soul Sisters, which other people struggle. I have no problem smashing those decks, so I feel very confident with the list. And you just obliterate the control decks. You absolutely obliterate the control decks. It's not even comparable. Let's see. Day 2 Dryden in the chat. Burn is a noob deck is a grossly oversimplified statement. Monster says, got his first pro point with Merfolk. Congratulations. Tried others, but always came back to the fish. Absolutely. I have no reason to go anywhere. I mean, I have a high win rate with Merfolk, and I keep winning. I'm super infinite online on ticks, so I have no reason to change anything except, I have no reason to go anywhere except Merfolk. Kumori says, would you enjoy if Merfolk would get a companion? Something like can only be your companion if your deck contains only Merfolk creatures, and then it's like 1 blue 3/3 all lands become islands in addition. I mean, that would be ridiculous. One generic blue 3/3 creature, all lands become islands in addition to their other cards. Like that would be fantastic. That would be such a bomb. I would like basically take Spreading Seas out of my deck, and that would free up 3 to 4 more slots in my 75. Because you start off with Spreading Seas in your hand all the time. That would be grossly strong. I would love it. Great design. You should work for R&D. We need people who watch the channel to be part of R&D and start doing things. They're certainly favoring other archetypes. That's for sure. We know that they're favoring other archetypes. They're favoring things like Lantern Control and Wur Prison and Dredge and stuff like that. They need to start favoring the fair decks like Merfolk here. But we need the right people working at R&D. Nick Barth says, Merfolk is expensive as heck now with Chalice, Force of Negation, and Cavern of Souls. That's true. So the funny thing with Merfolk is that I actually think it's the most competitive deck on a budget. Like, I've built this thing many times to have all the core cards. You can make it really good on a budget if you just don't play with those 3 cards that you mentioned. But if you want to take it to the most competitive level, it then ends up becoming really expensive because Cavern of Souls is very expensive. Chalice of the Void is very expensive. Force of Negation is also very expensive. So it's funny. If you want to take it to the most competitive level, it becomes costly. but if you want to, so it becomes very costly if you want to take it the most competitive level. But if you want to play on a budget, I think it's the most competitive on a budget. I genuinely believe that. That's why I have, on a regular basis, those budget Merfolk videos. And I guess I should make another one very soon, because I haven't made a budget one in the companion metagame. Not sure how well it'll do. It probably is still going to do, like, pretty well, 3-2. I have to say, like, judging by, like, the modern gameplay that I watch and the modern gameplay that I've played, it's pretty soft in modern right now. I think the competitive players have been moving to other formats for one reason or another. I'm not sure. Cody Hope says, what did you think of the Tulane Community College interview with Ben Bateman about Splinter Twin? I believe I did see that. I remember I watched one. I might have watched that one very passively, so I may not have any really good feedback about it. Was it a modern video? I can't remember. I may not be able to comment on it, because I've seen quite a few videos that weren't very specific, may not specifically have been about Splinter Twin. I mean, I know there was this one video where you know, the professor was trying to, like, defend Splinter Twin, that it shouldn't have been banned, which I don't exactly entirely agree, but at this point, like, I think, for example, the professor had this argument that we should be able to play with our cards in eternal formats, like, basically like modern. We should have a place for the eternal cards. Therefore, banning Splinter Twin is not good. But I think a good counterpoint to that is Splinter Twin prevented a lot of decks from existing. You know, once you banned Splinter Twin, the format exploded with a lot more archetypes, which therefore meant there were a larger range of people that could play with cards in the format. So, like, that was the only, I don't know if this is the same interview, because I can't remember the names of all the guests, but if that was, that's what I believe in that interview. Although I don't know if the banning of Splinter Twin is still justified. That's still up for debate. Because back then there were very few answers to Splinter Twin, and I think there was very few predatory decks against Splinter Twin. But even, like, just immediately after those Eldrazi were printed, I think there was, like, a new good predator deck against Splinter Twin. I think Eldrazi would give Splinter Twin a good run for their money. I think Death Shadow today would give Splinter Twin a good run for its money, and everyone has answers now. There's Force of Vigor, there's Force of Negation. There's just a lot of good answers to Splinter Twin today that did not exist back then. Bother Sean says, if Merfolk became unplayable with 0 chance of winning, what deck would you play? I don't think I could play anything else. I would probably play, I don't want to say I would play humans, but maybe I would. So it would either be like, I like the idea of Death Shadow, because I think it's a very tight deck to play. I like those decks. I like those decks that you get, they're fragile, they're hard to play, but they're really rewarding. That's basically how I see Merfolk, and that's also how I see Grixis Death Shadow. Or maybe some other Death Shadow variant. Maybe I'll play Jund Death Shadow. Another possibility is just, I mean, maybe spirits, maybe something similar. Yeah, maybe spirits, maybe humans. But I feel like I'm cheating on that answer. You're sort of asking, you know, what if you didn't have to play those cards? What would you play? And maybe Blue Moon. I like the idea of Blue Moon control. That's sort of an archetype that has always piqued my interest in the past. Mikey J asks, would Kamena be modern playable as a companion if it had a reasonable deck construction requirement? So are you mean Kamena Tyrant of Orazca or Kamena Speaker? Kamena Speaker, I would think I would love that as a companion, because I would always have a 1-drop in my hand, so I would be guaranteed to deliver pressure against my opponents. Whereas Kamena Tyrant of Orazca, yeah, sure. That's probably a very good card too. I mean, it's if it's free, sure. I think it would be very, very good. Because that card's nuts. It's just that it's just more of a value card, Kamena Tyrant of Orazca, and it doesn't have any specific purpose against any particular deck. But if I have it as a free card, why not? I'll take it. I'll take Kamena Tyrant of Orazca any day. R.I.P. Cat Combo, says Bother Sean, and you miss Aetherworks Marvel. What? Well, I don't know anyone who says that these days. I know one person who says that these days. I know now. Little Chop Sauce, what are your thoughts on the state of Pauper? I don't play it at all, but I get enough feedback from Twitter and some other close friends that play Pauper, and it sounds like a nightmare to grind. The are very long. There are no powerful win conditions to actually win the game. So there's a lot of board states, from what I hear, that you're technically winning, but it would just takes forever for one side to actually execute the victory because you're just grinding. You're one person's grinding resources, but another person's grinding resources, but at a slower rate. So it just takes a very long time for one side to actually win. That sounds miserable to me as far as like content creation or actually like or grinding ticks or anything online. But like it sounds really good if you want to play games of Magic. So like if you're not a fan of like if you're not a fan of formats like Legacy, Vintage, Modern, where the game could be over instantly because one player just completely overpowers the other, I think Pauper is more your thing. But I just don't. I enjoy a slight fast pace to a game, and then if the game doesn't go so fast paced, and we're both fighting to maintain an advantage, I don't mind that in formats like Modern or Legacy or Pioneer, stuff like that. But for every game to drag out, ugh, it's it's playable format. It's definitely a playable format, but I don't know if it's a format I want to dive into. Let's look. For anyone joining us right now, good morning. Good morning. You're here with Coffee and MTG, a hangout with Nikachu. Oh, yes. Beautiful Nescafe Gold. Nescafe, if you are, or is it Nescafe? No, Nestle. Whatever. I don't remember the. I think it's Nescafe. Nescafe, if you are watching this, I am open to sponsorship. I will just take. I won't take money. I'll take free coffee. Just send me all your coffee. Send it my way. Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. You know where to find me. Drew Anderson says, I heard there is a raffle thing going on where a winner gets a chance to create a Magic card. If you had that opportunity, what do you think your card would be? Yes. So there is a charity by Omaze, Omaze. So I don't know, look up Omaze and Wizards of the Coast. And I think it's still going on. They're still accepting donations. And if you donate to the charity, I can't remember what the charity is for, but if you donate to the charity, then you are put in a raffle to design a Magic card, which is fantastic. So if the whole Merfolk community donates, then maybe we have a shot at getting something useful printed. But like as I've said many in the other hangouts, I would design a 1-drop, a good 1-drop creature, something powerful that we can do on turn 1. I don't know what it's going to be, but something. And I will really press Wizards until they give me something that's remotely like powerful and playable. Like the best we got right now is a 3/3 on turn 2 if you go Kamena Speaker into a Lord. Like that's the best we can do. That's sad. That's sad. That's not good enough. I'm sorry. It is good enough, but it's not good. I want something like genuinely. I want Champion of the Parish power. I want Mausoleum Wanderer power. That's what I'm looking for in a 1-drop. Let's see. Jonathan Calderon says, did you ever listen to D12's My Band? I have no idea what that is. So no, I have not. Endgame says, I would say Deep-Root Elite is 1 mana too expensive. Oh, that's a good point. So that's a great answer, Endgame. So I was asked earlier, what is a card I want to play, but it's just 1 mana too expensive? And that is a great, yeah, if we had Deep-Root Elite at 1 mana, that would be the Champion of the Parish I'm looking for. It's like Super Champion of the Parish because you can actually put the counter on anything. It doesn't have to be on the Deep-Root Elite. You could put on your Lord. You can put on your Silver Gill Adept. You can put on anything. So like that's actually a fantastic answer. That's better than I could possibly imagine. Yeah, Deep-Root Elite. The fact that it costs 2 mana just makes it too slow. So you're like too crappy on the draw, and it's like I think it's a really bad card on the draw because it only has 1 toughness. But on the play, it's like only so-so. I think it's better off that you have something strictly powerful on the play, like Merfolk Branchwalker, like Yeah, something like that. Basically anything else. It's just too deep root elite at 2 mana is just too slow. But on 1 mana, oh my god, that's powerful. It's gonna be powerful stuff. Oh yeah. Oh, saddest says Angel's Grace has split second. If you're on the play with ad nauseum, you can steal a game. Well, the thing is, So we were talking a little bit earlier about Neoform versus ad nauseum. Yeah, I forgot you have split seconds. You're just screwed. You just look. So like ad nauseum might have a huge advantage so long as you have Angel's Grace in hand. How does? Well, okay. I wouldn't say ad nauseum is definitely going to win, but a Neoform cannot combo off into the Thassa's Oracle victory. They can't do that, or the Laboratory Maniac victory, whatever they want to choose. They have to win with like a Grizzlebrand in play and attack, attack, attack. That's like their only route to victory because it's so high risk to like just deck yourself, play Thassa's Oracle, and then get blown out by Angel's Grace because that's split second. So it doesn't matter if they have counter spells because they're ineffective. The Angel's Grace will resolve, and they cannot lose the game that turn, and then you're just boned for the next turn. But I think the alternate plan for Neoform is to go on a beatdown plan, like Neoform into Grizzlebrand, and then after that, just try to attack from there. But that's slow. That's not good enough. So there's a bit of an angle. There's a bit of a fight there between the Ad Nauseam and the Neoform combo decks. It's very interesting. Because even after Neoform's drawn their entire deck, it just doesn't matter. Welcome, Hoax. Good morning. How's it going with your computer? It's going great. We've ordered the parts. The parts to my new computer, they have been ordered, all of them. They should come in around a week to a week and a half, and then after I've got them all, after I have them all, I'm going to pay a computer repair shop to put it together because I can't put a computer together, and I'm not going to start today. And it's very exciting. I'm very excited to have to be able to record videos or stream at like full perfect resolution and at fluid movement and a lot of action. I'm very excited. It's going to be very, very interesting. It's even for the last 4 years, it's all been about. I wouldn't say it's my setup has been super laggy, but it hasn't been super perfectly smooth. It's just like good quality, but not perfect quality. The perfect quality is on its way. Hi, Devolk. Hi there, Nikachu. Luckily, I ain't late this time. What's up? No, you're not late. I've started it a lot later, and we're just hanging out. We're answering questions. We're talking MTG, and we're having a lot of fun with it. Daniel Wilcox asks, Nikachu, what's the difference in quality, if anything, between the Merfolk Facebook group versus the Discord? Should we be in one or the other, or just in both? Well, I would say the Facebook group is like a more sort of like fun community sort of thing, but I think for strategic advice, the Discord might be might be better, only because people can get back to get back to you more often, and I think the current grinders of MTG are or of Merfolk are more frequent there. That being said, the Facebook group is also great. They have a lot of fun. I know I've been watching people create cards. I know some people are like, hey, this is too many cards being created. Like people are making fantasy Merfolk cards, but everyone's enjoying it, and they're enjoying themselves. So why not? So I think it's good to be part of all the communities that you want to, but depending what you want to get out of the community, you can pick one over the other. Where is the guy? F. I don't know what are you talking about, Andrew? Where is the guy? Oh, I see. This is when I left for to get my playmat. I can see how lagged this is. Cody Hope says, I really liked all the Yu-Gi-Oh! GBA games despite never playing in paper. That's interesting. 13 seconds. Yes, my playmat, my badass playmat. If anyone's joining right now, let's show the playmat again. Super proud of my playmat. Got my bunny, which was like just a joke. It was like a joke on my iPad, and then in the end it became my my overlay, and then now like just basically the logo for my channel. Hello, Lassie. Good morning. See Lassie again. I think Lassie is for I don't know, 4 for 4 for attending the Hangouts. Pimpin' Magician of Prophecy. Bro, I still use my borderline hentai playmats from the OG Yu-Gi-Oh days. So here's a very interesting story about, like, you know, these really, how can I put it? I don't know if a triggering playmat is the right word, but, you know, basically inappropriate playmats in public. So at, like, American GPs, they'll like outright tell you to put it away, or, you know, don't come with it, or something like that, something of that nature. And I talked to a judge about this because I was in Taiwan. I played a GP in Taiwan, and there were like so many people with these, like, I wouldn't say hentai playmats, but, you know, like sort of not even revealing, but, you know, like these sort of anime girl playmats. You get the idea, you know. And and it was like way more common there. Like a lot of people had them, and there was no problem there in Taiwan. And I was talking to some of the judges, which came from all over the world. There were judges from Brazil, there were judges from Europe, there were judges from America. And I asked them, what are the rules over this? You know, I know in America you'll make sure, like, none of this sees the light of day in the event, but in, you know, in Taiwan, you just basically, you know, everyone can do whatever they want. And the judge basically told me, like, the rule is, if it would make you or someone you know uncomfortable in, you know, within the I guess within the culture, then you have to ask them to put it away. That's basically, I guess that's their, like, their guidelines that they go with. But and then he said, but here that's, everyone seems okay with it. So, like, you know, whatever, everything goes free. So your borderline playmat might be more acceptable in Asia than it is here in America. So I thought that was interesting in the change of culture, you know. Show the playmat again. I showed the playmat again. I'll show the playmat even more times later. Everyone gonna see the playmat. You can get it from Ink Gaming, inkgaming.com. It's available. I think I used to have a link in my, like, description of how to get it. The problem with selling the playmat is that you don't see it very often, so you don't know it exists. Because I'm, like, mostly a digital streamer. I don't know, maybe I should have it in the background or something. I should be able to hang it up. That's good advertisement or something. I don't know where it goes. Da-da-da-da. Something like that. I should think about that. I should get another playmat and just hang it up in the background. Why not? Because otherwise you don't know stuff like this exists. Like, people are just learning I have mugs. What's with, you know, YouTube is supposed to advertise all my Teespring merchandise, and they don't. I guess people don't. People just don't see the Teespring things below the videos, and they're for more mobile and desktop. Bothershine, you should use the playmat on camera, but when not on camera, don't use it. That's actually, yeah, that's a good point. But like I said, it's hard to use the playmat on camera. Mirko Cascone, hi Nikachu. I think you are one of the players that punts less. I get that you love to play Merfolk, but have you tried playing a deck with a similar style, but with a higher power level like Shadow? Like, I've considered it, but only if, like, Merfolk dies. There is always a cost, especially with Modern. There is a cost to trying other decks, because Modern is a very experience-based format. So every matchup that I'm not playing with Merfolk is like a matchup that, or sorry, is sort of, how do I put this? For every match that I don't play with Merfolk is like an opportunity missed to learn more about Modern with Merfolk, is basically what I want to say. So when I try other decks, I might get better with those decks, but I'm not going to move to them. So I potentially make myself weaker with Merfolk. And I'm not a huge grinder, so I sort of do value every single match I do play with Merfolk. So I've considered these things, but I've never actually, I sort of considered, I'm like, that would be an interesting deck to play. But for the most part, I enjoy Merfolk so much that I don't need to necessarily move to anything else. Lassie, use the playmat online. If only, well, there is some way to maybe go into the Magic the Gathering online file system and then adjust the background to just show my playmat. I need to just find the graphic that's for the for my side of the board, and then replace it with the Nikachu MTG playmat. Smirk McLurkin, thoughts on going back to the Kamigawa, or going back to Kamigawa? Do you think they will print a new Tashiro or Jite? Well, they most definitely will not print a new Jite unless it costs like 5 mana. I mean, they could do that. Umezawa's Super Jite, but they'll just make sure it's like 5 or 6 mana so it doesn't like see the light of day in any constructed format. It'll just be for like EDH or something. I think we're going back to Kamigawa. I think one day they're going to do it. I think there's enough niche interest in Kamigawa that we're probably going to do it. That's a legitimate possibility. I think they sort of tried to, they semi went back to Kamigawa when we went to cons. I think it has that sort of Asian theme that maybe not people weren't exactly looking for, but it was within that range. But I think eventually they'll go back to Kamigawa. Though it's just, I don't know if it's inevitable, but you know, eventually it will. One thing that Kamigawa gave the world were legendary creatures. You Commander players, you enjoy Kamigawa. Oh, and we also sort of went back to the legendary stuff with, we also went back to the legendary plane when we went to Dominaria, didn't we? Because Dominaria also opened up a lot of historic like permanents, including a lot of legendary creatures. The card J. Can Green Sun Zenith and GT be unbanned in Modern? Yes, and we will talk about that. I'm going to go through all the cards on the banned list. I think those are two very good candidates to get unbanned, and I'll have good reasons for both of them. I don't know if I need to defend Green Sun Zenith very much. It's a very silly card to have on the banned list at this point. There's like a lot of better tutors, and like what's another tutor anyway? I don't think it matters at this point. It's 5:30 in Germany. Whoa, I don't know much German. If my brother was here, he knows like a little bit of German. Danke. I think danke is thank you. I'm not sure. Zbigniew Lashchich. But there's no ranked Q in Historic. Not for very long. So here's the deal. They took away, usually when Standard comes out, they take away ranked from Historic on MTG Arena. But when the next Historic set comes out, they're going to bring ranked play back, and it will be permanent. Wizards made that announcement just as of within this last week. The ranked play on Historic is going to be permanent. So there's not going to be any dead time for me. I can just constantly climb up to Mythic in Historic with Merfolk, with Simic Merfolk, and it's going to be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to ranked play on MTG Arena, and maybe some other formats on MTG Arena. Saddest, by watching Nikachu gameplay of Fish, I decided I want to play humans. Whatever is good. It's all good. It's all good to me. JDX the Kid, other than Merfolk and Spirits, what are your favorite decks? Probably like Jund Death Shadow, probably Blue Moon. I like the idea of Blue Moon, or at least a blue-red control deck that has, you know, mostly counter spells, removal spells, and then just a few powerful permanents to win the game. So I like that sort of style of deck quite a bit. If there's a mono blue control deck out there that I don't know about, I'm all ears too. But it can't be taking turns. I won't count that as a mono blue control deck. And I'm not going to take mono blue Tron either. Oh, maybe I can take mono blue Tron. Mono best Tron. Dalton Harper says, I just finished foiling Modern Merfolk because the Ether Vials and Lord of Atlantis are cheap. Super hype. Yeah, right now, I mean, if you're into foils, now is the time to buy. If you're just into the paper cards, now is the time to buy because everything is on sale. So like anyone who has the money, the expendable money to like get into the paper, like to get into paper Magic, like now's the time to do it. Because a lot of people are just like, well, I'm not going to be playing paper Magic for a very long time. So what am I doing with these cards? And I need money. So, but eventually, one day, we're going to be playing the paper Magic again. So the people who can buy into it right now are buying at a discount, and they'll be ready for when, you know, the paper tournaments start opening up. Joseph Sokolovsky, will Core Set 21 have companions? I doubt it. I don't know, but I just doubt it. I think the companions are a one and done thing. And like I've said many times, it was just based on like what Mark Rosewater said. He said like 10 years from now, companions will be iconic. So I just sort of feel like when he says something like that, then that we're not going to see companions from here on out like we see planeswalkers. So I'm just basing it off of that tweet because otherwise I thought we were going to see companions like planeswalkers. I thought we were just going to see companions for forever. Which I have nothing against, but oh my god, people are going to backfire on that. So if there are more companions in more sets, people are going to be like, oh my god, what is going on with this game? What is going on? Tails Migliorini, if you could fly to a GP anywhere in the world, where would you go? I would just love to go to the European GPs. I love the European GPs because there is, how can I put it? I felt like when I was in Europe, there was a different feel to Magic when I was there. There was like, it definitely felt more competitive. I felt like it was more, yeah, it was just more competitive. They took the game more seriously. My opponents on average were like I guess a little bit more of the try-hard versions of players. Less ponies, less pure ponies than I would say the American players. There's just a lot of more people in. That was my impression, because I've played in a few European GPs, and that's just my impression between Europe and America. That they took the game like a degree a little bit more seriously than the American players. The American players are a little bit more in the casual range of players. So I just enjoy that environment. And where exactly? Wherever there's a modern tournament, basically. Wherever there's a modern tournament. Is playing Lurrus considered a sin? Not in my opinion. I think, all the more power to you if you can run it. Little Bird 965, would you play a 0/1 Merfolk for 0 mana like the Kobolds from Legends? I would play test it, but I don't know if it's good. I would play test it. I mean, it's something you could play with Ether Vial on turn 1. Like you go turn 1 Ether Vial, activate Ether Vial, throw my 0/1 in play. That's a line from my brother. My brother likes Ornithopter. 0/2 flyer for 0 mana. You can do that with Ether Vial. You activate your Ether Vial, boom. You put your Ornithopter in play. So that I would test it, but like I don't know if it's good because it has no power by itself. Nick Barth, love your Poor Folk videos. Thanks for that. You're welcome, Nick. And on a regular basis, I don't have a Poor Folk coming out this week, but next week probably I should work on one because I understand people are really strapped financially, and I still think people want to play Modern. Modern's like a funny format where everyone who's priced out of it, they like, I want to play Modern really bad. That's such a cool format. And then everyone inside Modern is like, this is a dumpster fire. This is awful. There's always something wrong. No one's ever you can't get the 100% of the community happy. So it's this funny force of people want to get in, and then the people who are in are just complain and whine about it all the time. But I understand people do want into Modern, so I have to make sure that I keep up those Merfolk decks that are affordable but still competitive, that you can still win with them. You can still win in the queues. And I still think Poor Folk probably has a lot of game in order to beat a lot of decks these days online. And online, for $100, you can get a pretty competent Merfolk deck with Ether Vials and everything. Ether Vials and everything. Chris Yedinek says, Nikachu had a $260 mono blue 5/0 on Magic the Gathering Online in April. It's a good list. Yeah, so I think that was like $260 in paper for budget, but $100 online. Prices are a little bit different online because they can reprint things to oblivion. Arzang of the Brothers of Light says, name 3 things that make pufferfish happy. Okay, so 3 things that make pufferfish happy. A, water. B, carrots. And 3, being squeezed by chefs. Those are 3 things that make pufferfishes happy. Beyond that, the pufferfish doesn't want anything else. Ooh, Komori says, Swift Warden would be good at 1 mana less. He's a 3/3 flash merfolk that grants hexproof. That would be true. I think actually at 2 mana flash speed, counter whatever the hell targets my creature would be very strong. There was a question asked like what what merfolk would I want to play if it just costs 1 mana less? So Kioma asks, which version of merfolk would you say is superior to other versions at the moment, and why? Last time I played was before Ikoria release, and I was on blue-green. So I have not I haven't gone deep into it. I don't know if I've gone super deep into playtesting Simic right now, because I can't. I don't have a computer. But let's say it's either Simic or Azorius Merfolk. Azorius has a lot of good things going for it. You get to play with Loris, of course, but you also get to play with Rest in Peace, which I think is very well positioned right now. Or like it's a strongly positioned card, because a lot of decks are trying to utilize the graveyard. But in addition to that, I also think Hushbringer is worth playing, because humans is now jumping up in the metagame hard, so and that's a bad matchup. So you need some hard hate against that deck, and I think Hushbringer is the perfect card in that matchup. Not to mention, it's going to put a hurt on some other archetypes like Urza, for example. So if you play Hushbringer against Urza, they're in a lot of trouble. That being said, I mean, Master of Waves and the power of Simic Merfolk and the speed and the aggressiveness is still very good, so I don't know how to compare them, but by default, I'm just assuming Azorius is the go-to version. And I say Azorius over Dimir only because you got a painless mana base with Azorius, or like the least painful, and that's going to be important in like all the mono red prowess matchups and the burn matchups. Certain archetypes are just so popular that you have to warp your plans around them. If there wasn't so much burn, yeah, I could see you going in the Dimir route, or if there was a better mana base for Dimir, I could see you going in that direction as well. But the problem is, the fact of the matter is, burn is out there. And if you fetch and shock, or you just fetch once, that can easily be the difference between winning and losing the match. I've had so many games against burn where I was at 1 life, and just because I had a painless mana base, I was able to win the game. But you don't get that with like Dimir Merfolk. You know, there's a lot of games where you like fetch at end of turn to get a shock land. You put it into play tapped, so you don't take damage from that. But at some point in the game, your burn opponent had Xaxes against you, Xaxes, and you forget that you you fetched that 1 turn, and that 1 turn can be the big difference between winning and losing a match against burn. And I don't know if Mire Triton compensates for that. I think Mire Triton would be better. For anyone who doesn't know, Mire Triton, when it enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life. That would be great if we did not take damage at all from our mana base. At the moment, Mire Triton just compensates for the damage we take from our mana base, but we don't get an advantage out of it. So either burn has to disappear, or we need a better mana base for blue-black. One of those two. We need a Wanderwine hub for black and blue. So moving on. Great questions, by the way, today. Great questions. That calls for a sip of coffee. Look, that question was so good that we got Niels thanking Kumori for the question. What if you play just for a week? I don't know. Oh, Kyoko also says, not to sound mean, but I don't think the professor plays competitive at all. I mean, that's true, but he's looking out for the greater community, and I think what the professor has at his disposal is he can listen to the overall audience of the community. And you know what? Like, even though Modern is a competitive format, I still think only like 15% like legitimate, like somewhere between like, I don't know, around 30% legitimately take it competitively, and the rest, you know, the other 70% still play it casually. So so you still have to listen to the casual players. Like, I made a video about the MTG ecosystem. There's tons of people just playing tier 2 and tier 3 decks because they just want to have fun, and they help the ecosystem of the tournaments because they are the people making them big. You know, they are the absolute grand majority of the player base, so you have to appease them to some degree, because if you're not making them happy, then they just don't show up to the tournaments, and then you end up with like these tiny tournaments of like 14 players, and that's not good for anybody. It's not good for the competitive players, and it's not good for the casual players either. So we do, to some degree, it's funny, at a very high degree, you still have to treat the community, like treat everyone in the community well. You have to accommodate everybody, and accommodating casual players is important. So I think he's a good voice for that community. And of course, I'm the voice for the competitive community. And I think it's fair to listen to that community. Do you think companions excluding Luris are fair? I think all the companions are fair. I mean, well, okay, Luris is maybe not fair because it's a bit stupid and it's too easy to slot in. But I think the companions overall are fair. I do think so. I mean, maybe at a high level you would say they're all not fair, but whatever. It's just a change to the game. It's more dynamic. It's just a different dynamic in my opinion. In my opinion. Heidevolk asks, what are the chances we will see some interviews with other Merfolk masters such as Draknar, Lepip, M. Hayashi, and Merfolk content creators such as Green Ranger, Merfolk Joe, Shabby MTG, and Magicus? So I have no particular. Well, I might. Okay, I'm interested in interviewing other Merfolk players, like the other like winning Merfolk players in the community. So that I am interested in. I don't know if I'm so much interested in interviewing the content creators. However, I could be interested in bringing them on for streams, for example. You know, something that I experimented a little bit on my channel, bringing on guests, but it just bogged down my computer so bad. Like it was bad enough. Whoops. It was bad enough that how can I put it? My computer was on the cusp of working perfectly, or like working competently to record the gameplay videos. But then once I added someone on Skype or Discord, then everything started shutting down. Everything was lagging really hard. It was like there was like a breaking, like gameplay and all this other stuff, and OBS was just fine. And then just adding like Skype just crossed this barrier that just killed my computer. So I would be interested in bringing those other people on to my channel, but I have so far no interest in like interviewing them, for example. Not that there's nothing interesting for them to say, but I'm trying to, I'm now trying to, how can I put it, get a good blend of interviews and Merfolk content and other content, because as you see, I did Masters Monday and stuff like that to attract other archetypes, I should say. And well, I mean, maybe there will come a time that I would have, I don't know, some video about content creation. That's just not in my domain to talk about content creation. Although if anyone has any questions about that, I'm free to talk about it. And maybe there is some interest to talk about the other content creators. Let me know. Dalton Harper, I found fairies and merfolk to be very similar, but with more control and a tempo gameplay pattern. Yep, they're very, very similar. The only difference is that fairies have a lot less lords than merfolk does, and that's the only bane to them. It's the only problem with those archetypes. Prof plays against the same stuff you do, pretty sure. Oh, you mean we play the similar stuff? I'm not sure if I understand that question, Rusty Seatbelt. Heidevolk asks, what do you think of Merfolk rocking some top 8s in old school 93-94? Also, have you ever considered trying Merfolk in Dual Commander? There are some very nice built Kamena decks around. So, I mean, I've brewed up some stuff for 93-94 just out of like, can I even make a 75 in that format? I was just curious. So what I did make something. It had like 4 Merfolk of the Pearl Trident, 4 Lord of Atlantis, and then like every clone that I could play. So I had like 4 clones, because there's so few Merfolk in that time period. What else did I play? I played, I think, Merfolk Assassin, because that's like technically a Merfolk. It's not a bad deck. Like, you get to play with counterspells, like Counterspell, you get Unsummon. So I don't know, I think there's something there. I think there's a little bit something there. I think you can play some just, I think there's like a 3 mana, 3/4 flying creature that you can play, so it's not bad. It's not bad, I like the look of it. Oh, and would I play in dual commander, like 1 versus 1, Canadian Highlander? I would love to. But I would play mono blue. Just to be honest, I would not go Simic. Simic is not my jam. Mono blue is true to my heart. I just play Simic because it's just the most competitive version of Merfolk in Modern right now. So I will, I'll be guided by what's the most competitive version of Merfolk. But mono blue in my heart is like, I don't want to betray it. And I think with a card pool so large in Commander, I can make a very good Merfolk deck in that format. Everyone talking about Pauper in the comments. Watch the Pauper Magic Fest, which is probably going to happen eventually. There will probably be a Pauper Magic Fest. Rusty Seatbelt, what islands do you currently use in paper? Currently, I use the snow-covered island. It is actually strategically important right now to play snow-covered island. It's stupid, but it is true. The problem is, if you play a regular island for your land drop and pass the turn, that immediately means to your opponent that you can't be on any snow control deck. You're not on any Wurza deck. You're not on any sort of like artifact based deck or basically any snow deck. So there's all these like banned snow, blue-white snow, Wurza, Simic Wurza. There's these snow archetypes in Modern. Arkham's Astrolabe, what's it called? Ice Fang Quaddle type decks that all exist in Modern right now. And if you play a non-snow island on turn 1, your opponent can assume that you don't have any of them. You're not any of these decks. And then from that, they could say, okay, so what other deck plays an island and passes and is not one of those decks? Maybe it's Merfolk. So it will, if you play a non-snow island in today's Modern metagame, then you are, it's only for a turn, but you're basically signaling to your opponent that you probably are on Merfolk. Because what other deck could run something like that? So that's why the snowlands are pretty important. But to give a better answer, I like playing with the unstabled island. I really like that island a lot. So if I was not playing with the snow-covered island, I would play with the unstable island. That's my favorite island at the current moment. Let's see. Zachary Izum says, Winnipeg, you're cousins with Kenny Omega, right? I don't know who Kenny Omega is. I know who Chris Jericho is. I know a lot of other people. Pancho Hernandez, coffee with cigarette is the best. Do you smoke cigarette, Nikachu? I do not. I stay away from smoking. I'm actually surrounded by smokers. A lot of my friends and family smoke, but I am not a smoker. And boy, is it a world of difference in the home, a non-smoking home and a smoking home. Not that I have anything against smokers, but I just prefer to live a smoke-free life. Last chit. I can't stand other types of coffee since I've bought my mocha pot. Hey, once you find some good stuff, you got the good stuff. Rosa in the chat. Rosa, welcome. Good morning, Rosa. Thank you. Thank you very much. You're the best too, Rosa. Komori, what about a 1/1 that puts Ether Vial from the deck into play on ETB? What? Oh my god, that's busted as hell. That means you always start with a 1/1. I mean, yeah, of course, that's a good card. It's very easy to design cards that are beyond broken. It's very hard to design cards that will actually see play, that will actually get printed. Or I don't know, maybe this opinion is stupid because Wizards are printing all sorts. If you showed us, what's a card that everyone knew was busted and then it got printed and it was busted? There really honestly wasn't any hype for Hogak until it saw play. There wasn't any hype for Oko until it saw play. And there wasn't any hype for, I don't think there was enough hype for Luris. I can't think of, what's a card that everyone saw, this card is stupid insane, and then it got printed and it was stupid insane. I think there's a lot of hate for Teferi upon spoiler, but it actually wasn't bannable. Because that's a problem. Well, like, because the thing is, I guess there's like Teferi, Hero of Dominaria. I think that was a good card, but I don't know if anyone thought it was that dominating. Like, people knew it was good. Whatever. Like, there's a lot of cards, I guess. You know it's going to be strong. Or there are cards now being printed today that are so damn strong, but you can't see it so well on paper, so you have to wait. Oh, actually, that's a good one, Kumori. Nexus of Fate. Nexus of Fate is a good one. Because even though it was 7 mana, a lot of people are like, this is castable. This can happen. So, like, that card was ridiculous. Yeah, maybe New Karn was a good version. That's a good example. I know. Isn't it funny that when people saw Urza, people assumed this is a commander card? This is Commander Masters. This is just a commander set. Modern Horizons isn't gonna do anything to Modern. We don't care about any of this stuff. And boom, Modern Horizons just super shakes up Modern big time with Hogak, Urza, and not Karn the Great Creator. That was in War of the Spark, and the Force of Negation, the Horizon lands. Like, we can't look back anymore. We got like Archmage's Charm. Well, the thing, Daniel, I don't know if everyone knew that card was busted. I mean, I gave fair warning to the entire community, but like all the pros were like, I know a lot of people were just disgusted that it was 3 mana, but they didn't think it was actually going to take over the format. The people are just frustrated with 3 mana cards and, high loyalty. Because all the pros downplayed this card, or almost all the pros. Like, everyone except Sam Black was in this pod of like, Oko's harmless. It gains life. Who cares? Well, they care now. It's now the most powerful Planeswalker ever. Beats Jace the Mind Sculptor in that territory, and so on. Let's see. What else can we get to? Yes, Lantern. They should just print Champion of the Parish Fish already. Just give it to us. And then if Merfolk is too good, ban something else. Ban Cavern of Souls or something. I would gladly exchange Champion of the Parish Merfolk with Cavern of Souls. Especially if that gets rid of Cavern of Souls for humans. That would help us. What would it take to create a Merfolk Winter, like the Eldrazi Winter? Tons of powerful 1-drops. If they printed us 2 different powerful 1-drops, that could be a game changer. Like, that's the biggest problem with Merfolk, is we never get out ahead to force our opponent to react to us. We always come out really slowly. Like, our best start is like Ether Vial, and we have any sort of 1-drop, and we can play a bunch of Lords. But like, what if we always had something good to do on turn 1 to put very real pressure on our opponent by turn 2 and turn 3? Then the game could be very different. But the thing is, Merfolk does so badly at applying pressure against the opponent on the earlier turns of the game that our opponent very often can ignore us, go about their game plan, and we are the one that has to react to them. But that would be completely different if we got enough powerful 1-drops that can put pressure on our opponent, make them react to us, and then we finish the game. Because that's basically what humans does. Their best defense is a good attack. That's just how it is. Clairvilla, Clara, welcome. Good morning. Good morning to Coffee and MTG with Nikachu. So that's why I'm always promoting the powerful 1-drop. I don't want 2-drops. I don't want 3-drops. I don't want anything else. We got everything. We have good counter spells. We have good 2-mana, 3-mana, 4-mana creatures. We have a million interactive spells in the blue color pie between like Repeal and Cryptic Command. I just want some early game. That's all Nikachu's asking for. Jade Bearer is a 1-mana deep root. Well, yeah, but it can't pump itself up. You know what, Nick Bars? If Jade Bearer could pump herself up by 1, because the counter has to go on something else. If it could go on her, that would be great. That would replace Commander Speaker, because it's just a superior Commander Speaker. But because Jade Bearer has to put on something else, that's a big deal. I don't see why everyone complains about no one drops getting printed. They printed Secret Keeper in the last set. Yeah, but it's like sort of useless. Joseph Sokolovsky, do you think Cozy's Trickster is our best one drop? No, because it's mostly a 1/1 creature. The problem with Cozy's Trickster is our opponent, once they see it, they will just play around the they will play around the counter, the shuffling ability. So once they see Cozy's Trickster on the battlefield, they'll play their shock lands, they'll play their creature lands. They will delay playing fetch lands for as much as possible, for as long as possible. And that's a problem because if Cozy's, like our one drops, we want them to be big in the early game, not big in the late game. So if for the first 3 turns of the game, they are not shuffling their deck, that's not good for us. That's good for them. So Cozy's Trickster gets good only if our opponent, if it becomes a 2/2 creature by turn 2, a 3/3 creature by turn 3. But if our opponent is denying us that and makes it bigger in the late game, like on turns 5, 6, or 7, that's not very useful to us. So I think the best one drop for Merfolk right now is Cometa Speaker by a wide margin. It's just undeniably, in my mind, the strongest, most powerful card that puts the most pressure on our opponents to put the fastest clock on our opponents. And then from there, probably the second best card is Benthic Biomancer, maybe Merfolk Mist Caller, pending the metagame. I like Mist Caller a lot, but it's meta dependent. It's super meta dependent. Oh, some great interesting stuff. Dur Redstone Pro says we were talking earlier about Neoform versus Ad Nauseam. Who's winning in that matchup? And there was some early discussion about that. It's probably what's it called, Neoform, but Ad Nauseam has a lot of play. And here's another point. They can kill themselves with Summoner's Pact if they go for, because here's the thing. If they go for the Laboratory Maniac plan, at the very last moment, the Ad Nauseam player can play Angel's Grace, and with Split Second, you can't counter this, they can't lose the game that turn. So Neoform just goes through their entire deck and screws themselves. Whereas with Neoform, and then I said, well, maybe Neoform can play a fair game of Magic. Maybe they can play a fair game of Magic where they just like, Neoform away the Allosaurus Rider into Grizzlebrand. But the problem with that is there's a lot of lines where they have to play Summoner's Pact to get this. So if they play Summoner's Pact just once to get their Allosaurus Rider, now if the Ad Nauseam player plays Angel's Grace, they're just going to die to the Summoner's Pact trigger the next turn. So anyway, that's interesting. Or would they? Maybe they could save themselves a turn because they have Simian Spirit Guide. So they could just tap 2 green, pay 2 red, but I mean, inevitably they're going to die anyway. Oh, but then David Bishop says they can just activate Grizzlebrand on the opponent's turn and win. If they have enough life. Oh, that's interesting. This is getting deep. We're going deep here. David Bishop says, okay, you can try to win this turn. It doesn't work, but then they could just try to do it again on the opponent. No, hold on. Does that work? Oh, okay, it only works if they have Laboratory Maniac. If you have Thassa's Oracle, this is not going to work. But they could play the Laboratory Maniac plan. Oh, man, this is going deep. It just shows, like, you know, you got these two, like, obscure decks, these 2 combo decks. Look how deep you can get into the strategy between the 2 of them. You would think it might be 2 ships passing in the night, but, you know, there's some, like, level of complexity and strategy when you think about it hard enough. I mean, I don't play either matchup, but, you know, now as you guys are commenting about it, I understand. Been to Theta's Thai restaurant yet? Best place in Winnipeg. I might have, David, but I don't remember. I don't really remember. I have been to many Thai restaurants, but I don't know if I've been to Theta's. And I certainly can't go right now. We're all quarantined. We're all stuck at home for the most part. Nick Barth. Is there any Canadian events you go to outside of Winnipeg we'd see you at? Well, I was semi-planning to go to GP Toronto this year, which was supposed to happen, like, you know, around now. But I mean, they're all canceled basically right now. They're all canceled. Well, I think I have to wipe. I'm getting dirty here. I'm getting coffee lip, if that's such a thing. So like, yeah, there was the potential to go to what's it called, GP Toronto this year because it was modern. It was modern. You know, I love my modern. So I try to go to any of the Canadian events that have modern, because if they don't have modern, then I'm not going. I'm not, like some people say, well, why don't you come for the side events? Nah, I don't think I'm going to do that. Channel Fireball, if you're listening to this, if you want to sponsor me to go, maybe I'll make my way out. I don't know how they sponsor people. I know they've sponsored many other content creators. It's a long shot. Give me free stuff. Give me free stuff. If you want me to be a streamer, we're going to be a streamer soon. We're going to go into the streaming category at Twitch. We're going to be real streamers. Hey, am I a real streamer now? Does this count? Or this doesn't count? I mean, I'm literally streaming live, but I don't know if this qualifies as like a streaming career. Adam Ellen asks, what do you think Magic's state will be paid? I don't know what that means. You'll have to rewrite or re-clarify the question. The Car to J asks, why is GTA banned in Modern and not in Legacy? Aren't the power levels of the format the same? No! Legacy is ridiculous. Like, Legacy has turn 2 kills. So if you don't have any interaction for those turn 2 kills, and like most decks do have something, you know, even like Death and Taxes has turn 1 Caracas for those Reanimator decks, but we don't have like anything close to that in Modern. So like Legacy is a ridiculously powerful format. It just so happens that there are powerful enough answers to keep those super fast decks in check. But that being said, GTA is a really slow, grindy card, and I don't even think it's that good in Legacy. Like, I honestly don't think it's that good. And I think it's slow and clunky, and I think it will just be a marginal upgrade from Sword of Fire and Ice. And I don't know if they're willing to unban something like this, but I don't think it's that good. I just don't think so. I don't think it's that great. I think it can be I think it can be unbanned. It's obviously not game breaking. Like, what's the worst you're gonna do? You're going to turn to, okay, so you need a creature to put this thing on. So like, what is it? Turn 1 you have a, let's look at the best case scenario for this thing, all right? Turn 1 you play a creature. Turn 2 you play Umezawa's Jite. Turn 3 you equip it for 2 mana. And then your opponent kills it. You sunk 5 mana to get killed for, like, I don't know, for a lightning bolt or a fatal push. So I don't think Umezawa's Jite is nearly to the power level as it used to be. And then let's say you connect with the opponent. What are you going to do? Gain life? Pump it up? Give a creature -1/-1? Like, that doesn't mean shit anymore in Modern. What are you going to do that to a Death Shadow, a Gurmag Angler, a Thought-Knot Seer, a Reality Smasher, giant humans to the Champion of the Parish? I mean, this is nonsense. This is silly. I don't think GTA is that strong anymore. Not what it used to be. I mean, it was good. It was good in, and I think it's better in Legacy than it is in Modern, because in Legacy there is like a larger range of 1 toughness creatures to pick off with the -1/-1 thing, but there's a lot less in Modern, in my opinion. Stoneforge Mystic needs to be played more. Mike Bowler, how old is Nikachu? I am 34 years old. I am 34, or 34 years young. But I look like I'm in my early 20s. I try. This is what you can look like. This is what you can aspire to be if you don't drink, you don't smoke, you don't do drugs. All you have to do is be addicted to winning. To winning. I am a winner. Winning and learning. Brandon says, what happened to the Burn and Death and Taxes guys on your channel? They have gone on to make their own channels. By the way, the Burn guy is Andrew Day 2 Dryden. But they have their own channels. You can look up Day 2 MTG, and you'll find the Burn content there. And also the Death and Taxes can be found at The Evil Empire MTG. Brandon asks, what deck would you play if not Merfolk? I gotta have some like FAQ for these things. Probably either If not a tribal deck, like Spirits of Humans, then either like Death Shadow or Blue Moon. I think those decks are interesting. Rusty Seatbelt, so then do you believe there is a ceiling to how well Merfolk can be played? I think the ceiling on Merfolk is very high, which is what makes it very appealing to me. And we see within the Merfolk community, the people who are proficient with the deck, and as you get better and better, your win rate goes up and up more, and you get more 5-0s. So I think the ceiling for Merfolk is very, very high because it's such a strategic. It's a very strategic deck, and it's not so straightforward. And the plans are very different and diverse pending your matchup. So the more experience and the more skilled you are with the archetype, the better your win rate is. So I think there's a very high ceiling for Merfolk. But I mean, everything has a ceiling anyway. Miguel, hello, welcome, good morning, or good evening, depending where you live in the world. Ice Barrier Angel, do you play video games? Yes and no. I actually haven't played video games in a while because since I have moved, I have not set up my Nintendo Wii U, which I used to just relentlessly play Mario Maker on. And I'm sort of debating whether I get a Switch or not. Like at first I thought, okay, I'm going to get a Switch to get the new Mario Maker video game. But now, I'm spending like a lot of money on this computer. I don't know, I have as much expendable income. But I don't know, maybe I could sell some reserve list cards or something to invest in the Nintendo Switch. And I would love to stream it, but I do like video games, but I like really hard games, like painfully difficult games. That's why I really like Mario Maker. It's Mario of all the different generations and sagas, and it's brutally difficult. I love those 100 Mario challenges and those 0.0001% completed levels. My brother and I, we love it. We love trying to save the princess. So if I can, maybe I will eventually get that streamed. But I'm interested in. I do like play video games, yes. Daniel says, when will we have beer and MTG with Nikachu? Not likely anytime soon. I'm not really an alcohol person. Mero said that they would have to redo most of the mechanics for Kamigawa. That's true. I mean, they can go back to the plane. They don't have to remake the set as it was before. Like, just because you go back to Zendikar doesn't mean you need to have landfall as an archetype, right? Like, you don't need to go back to the same mechanics. You just go back. You can just go back with the same characters and the same flavor, but you don't need to have the same mechanics. And they tried more legendary stuff, you know? We saw it in War of the Spark with the legendary things. The world needs more Moonfolk. Yes. The blue-red Merfolk deck. Brandon says, I think it would be fun to see you play a little EDH. I would love for, is it Canadian Highlander, the 1-versus-1? I would love that to be a competitive format. It's not something Wizards might want to take a direction in. Probably the best thing would be to ban the reserved list so that they have the opportunity to always reprint the cards, or, you know, set it as far back as Masks block to make sure that all the future cards in that format are totally legal. But I would love to play one-on-one Commander. I think that's a lot of fun. I like the idea of singleton formats because the games can play out in many different ways. So I'd be totally up for that. I think everything should be singleton. You know, I should make a discussion video about this. Everything should be a singleton format. It would solve all the problems. It'd be easier to buy foils because you don't need 4 of them. And so the card pool of foils would be diverse amongst a lot of people. Also, the price of just regular cards would be a lot cheaper because you don't need, the supply would be 4 times higher because you only need 1 copy. There would be less of a need to ban anything because certain powerful cards would be reduced to a... You know what? There's some cards that are powerful but not that powerful. Like, I think Oko, if you could only play 1 card of Oko, that would be fine. Because after you kill the Oko, you might spend a lot of resources to do it, but then Oko is dead and it's not coming back. The problem is when your opponent plays the backup Oko. You like threw everything at it. You threw this and that, and boom, And then, yes, victory. We have destroyed the Oko. Then your opponent says, I got to back up. And then you're like, oh my god, I got nothing left. I'm out of gas. That's the problem with certain cards like Oko. I think they're way more powerful and way more effective when you can play up to 4 copies. But if you're only allowed to play 1, I think I don't think it's so unfair. And same thing with like cards like Splinter Twin. You have 1 copy of Splinter Twin. Is that oppressive? No, I don't think it's that bad. The chances of having those turn 4 kills not a big deal, and you don't have to play around it as much because you know it's just not as likely. Billy Bob says we need another Jeff Hoogland video. Jeff Hoogland's a good guy. I like Jeff. I like opinionated people. Let's just put it that way. He's opinionated. He's not afraid to tell people how he thinks it is. How long until we're all playing mono green Merfolk in Modern? Oh man, Nick, I don't know if you can look up mono green Merfolk Nikachu MTG. I've tried to make it work. I have failed, but I somehow, you know, mono green Merfolk is just sort of like this funny pet idea of mine to make work, but I've never been able to make it work. Yeah, thank goodness Ranked Historic is coming. Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up soon. I'll answer 3 more questions and then we're going to wrap it up for today. It was a great turnout so far, 76 people. I love it. We're averaging about 75-ish. But I have to find questions. Okay, Daniel Wilcox, can you do a special on when to board out X, specifically Silvergill Adept and Aether Vial? I used to never board it out. Now I find myself taking out much more. Well, you gotta be a little bit more specific. I mean, okay, I get what you mean. I get what you mean. And the idea is like you're boarding out Aether Vial usually because it's a matchup that cares about resources more than anything else. So threat density is very important because you're up against an opponent that is always exchanging stuff, destroying stuff, trying to 2-for-1 you. So you're reducing the number of Aether Vials in your deck to increase the threat density. So to prevent the chances of drawing dead cards in the late game. Because there are certain matchups, like say against Death Shadow. I don't think this matchup is as much. It has a little bit of a tempo element to it, but it's not that important. It's not important to get out in front and start aggroing them out. It's much more important to just have more threats than they have removal for. And so in cases like that, you have to shave some Aether Vials. Now Silvergill Adapt is a little bit more tricky. I'm taking out Silvergill Adapt when racing the opponent matters, because in almost every situation where you play Silvergill Adept on turn 2, you almost never can kill them by turn 4. There's like no combination that's going to happen, unless you have an Aether Vial out and you can back it up with Lords, and it didn't matter if you played Silvergill Adept or not. So Silvergill Adept is taken out in these situations where it is not... when you're racing, basically. So against Elves, I don't think Silvergill Adapt is very good. Silvergill Adapt is good when you're trying to grind out your opponent's resources, but is not good in any matchup where your opponent kills you so fast that you die with a bunch of cards in your hand. So I guess if there's any sort of matchup where you keep dying, where you have like millions of cards in your hand, that is probably a matchup you should be siding out Silvergill Adapt, because it's probably not ideal to play on turn 2. You should be playing Lords on turn 2, or you should be playing some sort of tempo cards or counterspells or something to that nature. So I find for against decks like Elves, I'm not a huge fan of Silvergill Adept against Dredge, although I can understand sometimes it will. What else? In fact, it's not good, because that's such a fast combo deck that you can't afford to play Silvergill Adept on turn 2. You need to play a Lord. You need to get Island Walk online immediately. So Silvergill Adept's not very good. So I hope that gets some idea of why I might want to take out Silvergill Adept. Basically any of those super fast decks. looking for more questions. A lot of comments, but I'm looking for questions. Oh, here's okay, I won't count this as one of the questions because I brushed on this a little bit earlier, but Chris asks, when is a good matchup to take out 2 vials? Before watching you, I thought you either play 0 or 4. So yeah, the old way of thinking, so here's the deal. So a long time ago, I took out all 4 ether vials, but I usually sided in some tectonic edges to compensate, either 1 or 2, because I was playing with tectonic edge in the sideboard. And I found after playing years with Merfolk that my best games against Jund, Shadow, any attrition-based deck was when I took out all the ether vials and I at least sided in some more lands, so I could either keep my starting 7 or I would curve out like somewhat well. Because there is, if you go down to 20 lands, your rate of mulliganing is way higher. You're going to mulligan way more often. And that's not good against those decks. I mean, that's not something you want to do. And then there came a point where our opponents, like especially when the Rock, when Golgari Rock became very popular, they had a lot of sorcery speed removal, like Liliana the Last Hope, Liliana the Veil. They had a black sweeper for 3 mana. That I started thinking maybe I should have instant speed options with Ether Vial. Like my game 1 was good because I could flash in things at end of turn to play around the Liliana the Last Hope. That I started thinking playing at flash speed is actually quite good against these decks. And then eventually I came to the point where I said taking out all 4 Ether Vials is too much. We got to reduce the mana sources, but we can't go down like completely to 0. We can't take out all 4 Ether Vials. And then I started to gather that Ether Vial is good in the matchup, but we don't want to take out we can't take out 4 lands because then we're like at 16 lands for Ether Vials. And the odds of being able to play the Ether Vials with 16 lands is actually really low. We're just too choked on like actual lands. So then I eventually came down, like where I am now is on the play, I take out 2 Ether Vials, and on the draw, I take out 2 Ether Vials and 1 land. Because the extra draw step will help us draw land, and I do think Ether Vial, and I think having between 21 and 22 lands is a good place to be against attrition-based decks. So on the play, I have 22 mana sources. On the draw, I have 21 mana sources because of the extra draw step that we have. So that's where I am right now. So over the years of experience, I just learned 21 lands is where you want, between 21 and 22 lands is probably the optimal space you want to be against those attrition-based decks. Ice Barrier Angel, which is better, Dimir or Azorius Lurus? In my opinion, Azorius, because you have the painless mana base, and I think that matters the most against the burn decks. All right, one more. What do we got here? All right, Niels Nielsen. Hey Nikachu, I really like Eldrazi-tron, but I don't know if it is a tier 1, even with Chalice, is bad in the mirror, and it is a bad idea to buy into. I think Eldrazi-tron is a very good deck to buy into. I think it's good right now. I would, and I have to make a video about this, do not worry about buying into a tier 1 deck, because it is almost impossible for your tier 1 deck to be tier 1 all the time. It's just impossible. Wizards is just going to print something that will kill it. Or not kill it, but take it down a tier. Your tier status is always going to change in Modern. So don't be afraid of like buying into a deck that's not tier 1, because it's always going to change as new cards get printed, or things get banned or unbanned. Your tier status is going to change, but your deck is never going to be unplayable. And I think Eldrazi-tron is a super powerful deck. It's a super strong deck. You got Cavern of Souls to make your creatures uncounterable. You have perfect information by playing Thought-Knot Seer. You have aggressive creatures and good value creatures like Reality Smasher and Matter Reshaper. You have a toolbox card like Conan the Great Creator, which kills many decks. You're going to be up against Hardened Scales Affinity or some Urza decks, and you just slam the card and they're basically dead. You've got powerful mana, like with the Eldrazi mana. So I think Eldrazi-tron is a great deck to buy into. It's very powerful. I think it's very good right now, but most of the Eldrazi community just wants to play with companions. So I think that's a very safe deck to buy into. All right, so I think that's it for today. Thank you very much for joining me. This was a lot of fun. If you really enjoyed this, let me know. And we're going to be here again tomorrow. I think we're going to do it around the same time, 10 o'clock Central Standard Time in the morning. I think this would be my best default time to do this. This is when like most people are available all around the world. I had a lot of fun. Thank you very much for joining, Chris. Thank you, Kakodi, Visger. Thank you, Monster. Thank you, Thomas. We had a lot of fun. I loved enjoying my coffee with all of you. And if you enjoyed it, well, we're going to be doing this on a daily basis. We have to do something in the quarantine, so that we're going to hang out, talk about Magic with Nikachu. So have a lot of fun. Stay safe. Stay at home. Enjoy yourselves. This is Nikachu, Merfolk Master, hanging out with all you guys. See you tomorrow.